You're standing at the edge of light. In front of you, something that barely qualifies as a planet. It's not welcoming, not dead either, just resisting. Its surface ripples with heat like the memory of metal left too close to a flame, and the closer you get, the more it seems to blur, like your eyes are betraying you. Or the planet is. Mercury, the first in line, the nearest to the sun, the hardest to see. It hides not by distance, but by brilliance, drowning in solar glare, always too bright, too close, too exposed. We've tried to photograph it for decades. Most of the time we saw nothing but noise, glare, glitches, as if the planet itself refused to be captured, as if it didn't want to be known. But now the camera sees, and what it sees is not what we expected. A surface shattered by time, sculpted by impact. Temperatures that burn at 800 degrees Fahrenheit by day, then plunge to -300 by night. No air, no clouds, no protection, just raw matter, silent and exposed. Mercury doesn't rotate like Earth. Its day lasts longer than its year. It turns once every 2 orbits. That means the sun can hang in the sky, unmoving, for weeks. Imagine staring into the same blinding light day after day, while the ground beneath you breaks from the pressure. That's Mercury's reality. The footage arrives in fragments, sharp, brutal, beautiful. In one frame, a single figure stands in shadow, a woman in a black thermal suit, visor half lit by the sun's edge. She's still, not posing, not performing, just witnessing. And in that stillness, the planet becomes something else. Not a place, but a presence. You feel it in the footage that something here wasn't meant to be seen. Not by us, not like this, not so close. Maybe the camera finally succeeded, or maybe it just got too close to the truth. Mercury doesn't speak, it doesn't echo, it doesn't even whisper back. There's no atmosphere to carry sound, no air to vibrate, which means silence here is not just an absence, it's a condition, a rule. Even your thoughts seem to arrive quieter. The planet absorbs everything, light, motion, time, and in return gives nothing but stillness. What you're seeing isn't a landscape, it's a wound. A surface pummeled by billions of years of impact, untouched by weather, unsoftened by wind. The same craters stare back from every frame, like fossils of violence that never healed. Some are the size of small countries. Others overlap like scars on scars. If Mars looks like a battlefield, Mercury looks like the memory of war itself. And yet, above all this devastation, the sun rises. Slowly. So slowly that it doesn't seem to rise at all, just lingers on the edge of the horizon like a question. This is one of the strangest truths about Mercury. A single day here lasts 176 Earth days. That means if you stood in one spot long enough, you would watch the sun stretch across the sky in impossible slow motion, like time, melting. And when that light hits the stone, it doesn't feel like morning. It feels like exposure, as if something private is being revealed, one ray at a time. There's a shot, steady, almost still, of her again. The woman in black. She's standing on the rim of a crater. Just at the moment, sunlight scrapes across the opposite wall. The gold glint hits her visor, reflects back into the lens, and then nothing. She doesn't move, doesn't react, just listens, in a place where listening means standing very still, waiting for the heat to speak. Because Mercury is not simply a world scorched by fire, it is a world next to fire. And that closeness changes everything. The light doesn't just illuminate, it interrogates. Time works differently here, not metaphorically, literally. On Mercury, one rotation, the time it takes the planet to turn once on its axis, takes 59 Earth days. But because of its strange orbit and its locked relationship with the sun, the result is this. One solar day on Mercury, sunrise to sunrise, lasts 176 Earth days. That means if you stood still at dawn, you would see the sun creep up, hang motionless for weeks, and then begin its crawl across the sky with unbearable slowness. Not rising, stretching. You could live an entire season in the same hour of light. There's a scene from the mission footage, sped up, but not too much. A shadow cast by a rock elongates, twists, and dissolves, but it takes forever. The light moves across the surface not like time passing, but like pressure building. And under that pressure, the landscape doesn't respond, it just endures. On Earth, we expect days to bracket our lives. We measure work, rest, memory, all against the rising and setting of the sun. But here that boundary is gone. There's no rhythm, no reset, just exposure, continuity, and in that continuity, danger. Because when the sun lingers too long, surfaces bake, metals warp, and time itself begins to feel unstable. Not because it is, but because we are. You see her again, the woman. She's inside a small reflective habitat, watching through an angular viewport. Her helmet is off, but her face is still unreadable, half lit, half dissolved in the sheen of the window. Outside, the landscape glows a deep copper, not warm, just silent, just extended. She breathes, that's all, one breath. But in this place, even that feels like defiance. Mercury doesn't pass through time, it drags time with it like a heavy shadow. And if you watch long enough, you start to feel it tugging at you, too. We've always struggled to see Mercury. Not because it's far, Venus is farther. Not because it's small, Pluto is smaller. But because it hides in the brightest part of the sky. Always too close to the sun, it vanishes in glare. Our telescopes catch it only during rare transits or fleeting twilight. For centuries, even astronomers didn't know how fast it spun. They thought one side always faced the sun. They were wrong. We launched missions. They failed. The first to reach it, Mariner 10 in 1974, mapped only 45% of the surface. A technical triumph, but a visual defeat. Half the planet stayed in shadow. For decades, we knew more about distant moons than we did about the innermost world of our own system. Then came Messenger, 2011, the first to orbit Mercury. It took over 277,000 images, and what it saw didn't add up. There were craters where there shouldn't be craters, patterns in the rock that suggested shrinkage, entire sections of the planet collapsing inward, faults, folds, wrinkles, as if Mercury was shrinking, not metaphorically, literally, cooling from the core like a fruit left too long in the cold, skin wrinkling over a hollowing center. But there's more. Bepi-Colombo, our most recent mission, started sending back readings, strange magnetic anomalies, localized fluctuations in the magnetosphere, like static or interference. Scientists don't call it that, of course. They say data noise. But it sounds like something else, something pushing back. There's a limit to how much you can extract before the signal breaks. A threshold where observation stops revealing and starts disturbing. That's where we are. In one grainy transmission clip, the lens flares just as the surface comes into view. A human figure, her again, stands far from the lander, almost at the edge of frame, not moving, just there, as if she wasn't part of the mission, as if she was always already there. What happens when the thing you're trying to observe starts observing you? At first, it looked like a compression error, a glitch, one of those digital stutters you see in corrupted video, but it wasn't. The thermal imagery from Bepi-Colombo showed something real, something that shouldn't have been there. Inside the deepest shadows of Mercury's craters, where no sunlight ever reaches, temperature spiked, briefly, then faded. These weren't just random anomalies. They appeared in patterns, hexagonal in some cases, structured. Like something beneath the surface had shifted, just long enough to leave a signature. We tried to explain it. Subsurface ice, perhaps. Frozen pockets left behind from ancient comet impacts. But that would require protection. Shade. Mercury has no shade, no atmosphere to trap it. The sun's radiation should have boiled everything away, and yet, it remains. Some of the images reveal micro-hollows, small depressions in the rock that shimmer faintly in infrared. Not from heat, but from reflectivity, as if they weren't depressions at all, as if they were mirrors, cracked, burned, imperfect, but mirrors. There's one sequence the mission archive barely mentions, a wide-angle shot of a basin near the equator. In the corner of the frame, something refracts light the wrong way, not reflected, but reversed. The geometry is wrong. The shadow falls in the direction of the sun. For one frame, just one, you can see a figure again, her silhouette blurred in the distortion. Standing perfectly still, but her reflection bends outward like the lens itself is being pulled. And then, static. They called it an instrument artifact. But maybe it wasn't the camera that broke. Maybe it was the planet. Because Mercury isn't just a surface. It's a lens, a burnished, time-shattered mirror, one that doesn't show you what's there. It shows you what was, or worse, what's watching back. And in that moment, the question stops being scientific. It becomes personal. What if there are places we're not meant to see, only to feel? We came here to study a planet, mass, orbit, mineral content, surface age. But what we found doesn't behave like data. It behaves like doubt. Like Mercury itself isn't a destination, but a question. Not about space, about limits. This is the closest planet to the sun, the most scorched, the most silent, the most geologically dead. And yet it resists closure. The more we map it, the more it slips. The more we see, the less we understand. It shrinks, it glitches, it refracts. It holds ice in places where ice should die. It preserves craters older than our species, unmoved, unweathered, like inscriptions in basalt. And beneath it all, the magnetic field. It's too strong, too strange, lopsided, displaced, as if the core itself is misaligned, as if the heart of the planet doesn't know where center is anymore. That's not just geology, that's metaphor. Because Mercury exists between extremes, between fire and vacuum, between motion and stillness, between what we can touch and what recoils when touched. And in that tension, something else appears. There's a long tracking shot, slowed almost imperceptibly. The woman is walking now, not fast. Each step deliberate, the kind you take in a museum or a cathedral. Her shadow follows behind her, but the light is strange. It bends over the terrain like a curtain of molten glass. She pauses at the edge of a cliff. Below her, a plain of crater lakes, white-hot and unmoving. But she doesn't look down. She looks up, and the lens lingers on her face, not to study her, but to hold still in the presence of something that can't be processed, something that resists being turned into meaning. We came here to take a picture, but the picture took something back. Mercury is not a world we land on. It's a world we approach but never fully arrive. There's a moment in every mission, quiet, undocumented, when the data stops being data, when the image on the screen stops being there and starts becoming here. That moment is never announced. It doesn't flash or glitch or warn. It just arrives, like a shift in temperature, a pause too long to be incidental. That's when the camera stops being an instrument and becomes something else. Not an eye, a mirror. Because every time we look at something far away, something uninhabitable, something extreme, we bring ourselves with us. Our fears, our patterns, our need for meaning. And Mercury, more than any other world, reflects that need back. It gives us silence, and we fill it with questions. It gives us heat, and we call it danger. It gives us light so bright it blinds, and we build lenses to push through it, to bend it, to control it. But what if light isn't meant to be controlled? What if some images distort because they're trying to protect us? One of the last images from orbit shows her, standing alone again. This time on the Terminator line, where day ends and night begins. Half her body in shadow, half in burning gold. Behind her, the sun flares off the edge of the planet. It creates a lens flare so wide it splits the screen. And then, just before the frame cuts, she turns. Not toward the light, not toward the planet, but toward the camera. Her face unreadable, not hostile, not afraid, just aware, as if she knows what we're doing. As if she's asking us, why are you still watching? We came here for clarity, for certainty, for sight, but all we found was a question that watches back. So what if Mercury was never a destination? What if it was a boundary, a mirror on fire, waiting for someone to stare too long? What if we already did?